Yes, sir.
All right, let's see. Let's see.
Yes, sir.
Okay, okay. Let me cut this joint up a little bit.
See these comments. Exit. Come one, come all. See what niggas been trying to do here.
Mm-hmm.
Damn, nigga, Wade Jaren Green already? That's tough. That is tough, man. That's there.
Hey, come on. Come on.
Here.
Hey, where your picture
Niggas
at,
been.
call up? I mean, don't got no picture on that joint.
This bitch on my jump.
That joint blanked out on mine. I ain't Ben Simmons a night. He's supposed to be a 95. Yeah. I ain't being a -2.
Mmm.
Man, I hate we ain't don't got no centers. I mean center Cornet.
76 is gonna be tough. It's gonna be tough.
Mm, 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 mm. We'll start up in a few. Brandon Miller.
Mm-hmm. That was a shock. That was a shock deal right there.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't see that one happen.
Mm, 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 mm. Turn this music down, man. Okay.
Charles Bediako. I got these niggas. I don't know. I'm gonna ever play that boy.
Mm, mm, I hate going through all these emails, dog.
Playing catch up. 1,
Look at
2,
Mike,
3, 4,
Grizz Nation.
5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay, we got more coming in. Okay, okay. All right, so we can go and get started. We can get started.
Hey, Mike.
So we got off-season grades. Off-season grades. We got a special guest with us, the Spurs owner, also
Chris
known as
Broussard.
Chris Broussard. What's up, Chris Broussard? What's going
Happy to be
on?
with you this morning, fellas.
What's up? What's up? So we just gonna probably run through. I mean, it's basically just go through order. We're gonna probably start with these Sixers, who has a
Okay.
new owner. New owner, Win Jones. Win Jones is the new owner for the Sixers, and they made some big moves, big changes that came with the Sixers this off season. So let's start with this draft pick. So
Okay.
Sixers had the number 2 pick in the draft, and they took Brandon Miller. Brandon Miller, the 6'9" forward from Tennessee. 6'9" small forward from Tennessee. Brandon Miller cold. He cold.
Mm-hmm.
But he had Money Banks with number 1 to OKC. But I guess it's gonna depend on how we look at Brandon Miller versus the next best prospect in the draft at the time was Victor, the center. So, what's your thoughts on Brandon Miller and Philly taking Miller over Victor in the draft?
I mean, one can only assume the idea was he was gonna bring Embiid back. I don't think he would have went this route had he known he would have lost Embiid. But
Mm-hmm.
that's the business. You never know what's gonna happen with a free agent.
Um,
Um, I don't know what their financial situation looked like after he lost Embiid because I didn't see them really make a play for none of these other centers that were out there. I mean, there were other more quality bigs out there once he lost Embiid. so I wasn't really aware of what their financial situation looked after that. But to me, that getting Miller was good, but overall, everything else, I don't see no other moves that were made outside of getting Miller.
Yeah. Yeah, I think from a talent perspective, Brandon Miller was a good pick. I mean, he 83 overall rookie, 4 badges already. But I think it would have been better suited if he got Brandon Miller and then was able to at least find a starring capable center. Because right now he got
Mm,
Cornette. Uh, I might say who the center. It's Luke Cornette, Mike, and Biombo. Those are the two centers right now. And he's already kind of small with Tobias at his four and Michael Foster, 6'9". So being in Miller gonna be tough to deal with. But even when you look at his two guard, I mean he got Maxey as his starting two. So he didn't really
mm,
do much going into the off season, but it was more of a fill out off season for him. Interested to see. I mean, he did give Embiid, I think, max money, but Embiid still decided to go elsewhere, which we'll talk about later. Um, so if we had to give Philly a grade, man, draft grade of a I give him a draft grade of a A-, because I think Brandon Miller overall is a good player. I think,
mm.
looking at his rating, he's a really good player. But as far as his overall offseason, I was expecting him to fill some more needs up front. So I'm gonna have to give him more of like a C plus, C- for or probably no, I'm gonna give him a C-.
Let's
Um,
see, man.
yeah, C- for offseason total. What about you?
Okay, so for the draft, I'm gonna give him an A. I believe
Mm,
Brandon Miller was a solid pickup. But for the actual off season, I'm gonna have to give him a C-. Looking at the
mm,
books on this team, they got Tobias, he on the last year of a max deal. Ben still here for 2 more years. And then Brandon Miller's your next highest paid player who you just drafted. So I mean,
mm.
it's like a team full of role players.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm gonna have to go with a C-.
They're gonna have some money next year, and I think it'll be interesting to see how that plays out with Tobias falling off the books. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I just would like to see them do a little bit more. This team with a more dominant center in Brandon Miller and Bean would have been, scary, even more scary. But like the Josh Jackson pickup, Josh Jackson was a pretty solid pickup for him too. Okay, okay. So we got A. We both agreed about an A- on the draft. C,
Mm-hmm.
Off season. Okay, cool, cool. All right, next up, man, we got the Chicago Bulls. They were busy, busy, busy. Probably one of the most active teams this off season. They did a damn good job, though, I think, overall. Let me go to this transaction report and kind of see um,
So low.
what all happened here as far as signings go. So one, looked like they signed Clint Capella 4 years, 57 mil. They signed Darius
Mm,
Baisley 3 years, 33 mil. Then they signed
mm,
some other guys. They signed Mario Hezonja, Dorian Finney-Smith, Alex Lynn, Kevin Looney, Quinn Cook, Shaq Harrison, which they ended up waiving. But mainly, we want to look at the trade that they, let's see, the trade that the Bulls did. And that's if they can
okay.
show it. Let's see.
Nah, I think it's gone.
Yeah, it's gone now. So what we'll do is, let's go here. So what the Bulls did, they able to acquire De'Aaron Fox, the point guard out of Sacramento. I think after they lost Levine, I think Bulls felt like they needed to, do something with their guard play, add some additional guard play. And Fox is the real deal. Fox is a 90 overall, 25-year-old point guard, one of the fastest point guards in the game. They ended up moving Jared Allen to Sacramento and Dante DiVincenzo to Sacramento and Laurie Marketing to acquire Fox, who's a franchise level point guard. So even though they moved these bigs and DiVincenzo, they were able to replace them with a guy like Capella, who we know can rebound well. And I think Boston with Fox in the backcourt is going to make a nice tandem too. And then they also added Darius Baisley, who was with Boston and they mysteriously let him walk. So
Mm,
Baisley is a solid pickup. 88 open three, 79 overall, 6'8", small forward, power forward. We saw what he could do in OKC, so I think he'll be a nice fit in Chicago. Um, what's your thoughts on what the Bulls did? You know?
The Bulls are active, man. I mean, this team almost is completely different than the team from last year. I'm looking at through the roster, and I think I see maybe 3 or 4 guys who was on this team last year. I like the Fox pickup. I'm assuming he's gonna run a Fox six and Bex court together, which should be pretty good defensively at times. They are a little undersized, but I think Solo can make that work. Fox is a great player. I feel like there was an improvement for him. Hopefully Boston will step up. I know that was one of his big scores. Boston averaged what is it, 32 last year. So it'll be
Hmm.
interesting to see if Fox, the addition of Fox, makes Boston step down. Because I mean, he's been progressively improving each year. So that'll be interesting to see if I'm sorry, he averaged 24.7. He had 32 so far this year. So
Yep.
maybe he won't take a step out. But what's interesting to me is the power forward situation. With so many guys kind of going back to getting a more traditional front court, it looks like the Bulls are sticking with their modern lineup, and so I don't know if that's going to help or hurt him when it comes down. I know one of his biggest adversaries is the Knicks, and he thrives on getting the big power forward. I think they got KP at power forward now, so I think at times this kind of modern lineup may hurt the Bulls, but it's going to be interesting to see. Overall, though, with all the transitions, I'm gonna have to give the Bulls a B plus overall.
Okay. Okay. I couldn't get. I think B plus is pretty fair for them. I think I really like the Fox trade. Fox
Mm-hmm.
is to me is one of the better point guards. He got 20 badges. It ain't a lot of guys in this league with 20 badges, 20 or more badges. So Fox is the real deal. I think that takes a lot of pressure off Sexton, and a little bit off
Mm-hmm.
Boston too, like you mentioned. But that fourth spot is tough. Finney Smith is their only four at the moment, and I'm assuming they're gonna probably play Baisley some there. They may
Mm-hmm.
also, I mean, they have Luke Dort, who's 6'3", and he could play some three, but they're gonna be. I'm assuming Boston may play a little bit more three too. So they're gonna be pretty small at that fourth spot. It's gonna put a lot of pressure on guys like Capella, Alex Lynn, and Hernan Gomez to perform well at the five. So I think a B plus is about right for him. I really like I said, the Fox move is the biggest thing, but it's
Mm-hmm.
gonna be interesting to see how they perform in that East with you got guys like KP at the four, and you got some large teams like even Charlotte. Charlotte's long almost at every position.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yep.
it's gonna be tough. It's gonna be tough. It'll be interesting though, because they got a lot of speed though. Chicago got a lot of speed right now. Okay,
Right.
okay. So B plus, I think we can agree with that. B plus. Okay, okay. All right. Next up, the Cavs. This was a team who had probably
J
one of the better
Rock.
off seasons. J Rock. J Rock.
Yeah.
He had a good off season last year too. Bringing in Jimmy
Mm-hmm.
Butler, Robert Covington, and what he did this time around, he was able to add him a premier guard, D'Angelo Russell in Cleveland. He added a premier guard to go with Jimmy Butler, give him some help. Um, D'Lo, obviously, very talented player. 24 badges. We just talked about how it ain't many guys with over 20 badges in this game, and he's the real deal at 91 overall. Um,
Okay.
I like D'Lo there with Jimmy Butler backcourt. He also added Terrence Ross. Terrence Ross spent a lot of time in Orlando. It's interesting seeing that he left Orlando. He's a veteran, 32 years old, but overall, good, decent player, decent role player, especially be bringing off your bench with 5 badges. Um,
You got
and
Christian Wood too, right? That was a
yeah,
sign.
yeah, got Christian Wood at the four. And honestly, I mean, with Garuba, he still has Garuba as well. I think that provides flexibility for him. We could play both Wood and Garuba. Garuba, we saw
Right.
what he did in the playoffs last year. Um, he's a real live dog. And then he still got Stein. He got Stein back, who was six man a year in Cleveland at the time. So
Mm.
I think that Cleveland team, man, they look good. I think last year I talked a lot about they offense abilities without with Jimmy out there and not having a lot of offense, but now with D'Lo, I think that balances them out a lot. So what's your thoughts on Cleveland? You know?
I like what Cleveland's doing. I like what he's doing. He got two good defenders on the court with Butler and Covington. So I mean, he could pick his poison on who he wants to put on an opposing team's best player. Butler's getting up in age, but he hasn't dropped off yet. I mean, he's still one of the premier players in the league. I love the Wood signing. I like the lineup that you mentioned. It'll be interesting to see if he experiment with it. The Wood at the five and Garuba. That way he's able to get a lot more spacing. And the
Hmm.
D'Lo signing is great. Man, I like everything the Cavs did. I don't. Did he have a draft? I don't see who. Oh, he drafted the French guy.
Yeah, Matty
No.
Troyer, he got him in
Yeah.
12.
Yeah. They said this dude was 5 year pro already.
Damn. That boy
Damn.
came in with I guess he got that experience in France.
Yeah. I mean, I like overall everything that the Cavs did. I got to give this team an A- off season, man. That D'Lo signing is huge, like you said. Scoring was an issue at times for him. He still got Rozier at that 6 man role.
Hmm.
I think the Cavs took a step forward. I want to say that they most different. I think they were what, top three last year. Were they three
Yep,
seed last year?
I think so. They were top four at
Yeah,
least.
I see them being in the same top three mind frame. Now the issue will be, can this Cavs team overtake the Knicks or the Hornets and then top two teams over there in the East?
Hmm.
That'll be known. That'll be interesting to see. Those regular season matchups between those teams will be pretty good because those teams have had his number consistently. But I believe with the addition of D'Lo, getting Wood out there, Butler and Covington still being there, I believe
Hmm.
he may be able to do it this year. So we'll see.
Hmm. I agree. I think I'm gonna have to give him an A+. He had one of my favorite off seasons because I think D'Lo's a guy I felt like a lot of people didn't target in this 2K, and I think he's very underrated on this game. I mean, he's built like a star, a superstar.
Hmm.
So I think D'Lo, he has the protection of a lot of defenders around him, and he's 6'4". So I think when it come down to playoffs, this is what he was missing when he needed like big buckets late in the game. And I
Right.
think D'Lo addresses that in a lot of ways. Um, so overall, I give him an A+. I think at least definitely an A. So
Yeah.
great job on J Rock. Great off season. Great off season.
Okay, J. Rock.
Okay. Okay. All right. So we got the Grizzlies. The Grizzlies. So before we got on this, Grizzlies made a big deal. Grizz talked a little bit about before. J Rock said my first two user games is the Knicks and Hornets.
Let's go, J. Rock.
Um, so Grizz, we were talking about this before, a little bit yesterday, but
Okay.
Grizz was trying to figure out. They knew Mo Bamba was unhappy last year. They won a title with him, but it took Bamba really did not want to come back. But he ended up having to take the offer we gave him as a restricted free agent. But Memphis ended up finding a way to move Mo Bamba and Brandon Clark, along with Greg Brown, to Warriors for former Memphis Tiger, Memphian James Wiseman, and Draymond Green. Draymond Green's contract. So this is a deal that Memphis had to kind of make. Like I said, that's why you sent me a pic. Now I understand. It's kind of a deal that Memphis, in a way, needed to do financially. Just kind of looking at the numbers, we had a lot of long-term deals. We had to pay John Morant his max deal this offseason. We paid Jaren his deal and Zach Levine their deals a couple years back. Had to bring Thibault back as well. And so, just looking at the count room, Clark was offered a deal by the Bulls early on in free agency, which was a pretty
Mm.
a pretty hefty offer. I think it was about 4 years, 50 or so, 55 mil, maybe 48 mil. And I just think that with the Grizzlies having to bring back Nikhil Alexander Walker too, it just wasn't financially suited for them to have Walker, Clark, with Levine, John Jackson Thibault. That was a lot of salary for a small market team. So this was kind of more of a money move and a move to be able to get another player that can pair with Jaren too, who has connections back to the city. And Draymond, look, I know he was 73 overall, making 27 mil. But we brought him in for veteran leadership. He's a champion. Um, 27 and a half mil expiring, but hey, we brought him on the line to kind of help mentor Jaren and keep mentoring Wiseman too. Um, and then also Grizz added Jakob Poeltl. We added Jakob Poeltl from San Antonio.
Yeah,
Figured they were letting Jakob walk once they got the Mobley signing, which we'll talk a little bit more about. And then they also brought Slow Mo, Kyle Anderson, and Jay Crowder back too.
mm,
Um, those are two veteran guys who tough, add some more toughness to the team that's going to be needed. Um, Corey Kispert was another guy. He's going to be seeing some time. 6'7" shooting guard, small forward from Gonzaga. Traded McDaniels for him as well. So, and then we locked in Taco,
that
3-year deal.
damn taco.
Locked him in on 3-year deal. He's the break glass in case of emergency player. But Taco's here. What you think about Grizz all season?
So first, let me see. What would you grade it?
Um, so including everything, I give it A minus. I think
Oh, hey,
we
okay.
brought back everybody. I think we brought back everybody. And although we moved over from Bumble, our starting center, basically like our 6 man in Clark, and Brown, but I think it was something we had to do money wise. So, um, that's kind of where
Okay.
I'm at.
Okay. Okay. Bringing job back was a no brainer. I mean, everybody knew that was coming. Getting now back was a low key big one. I honestly didn't think that you would be able to bring now back. I thought that he was
Hmm.
for sure gone. So I mean, that's a good one as well. And locking in Thabu. I mean, those three key pieces to get back. It's always interesting when a team who wins to see what they do or don't do. I mean, to see what you feel like you need to continue to get better. The Grizzlies beat the Hornets in what, six last year?
5.
5-5. I mean, so just getting out of the West and winning the finals and pretty much keeping everything intact was a win in itself. The interesting thing, like the trade was a good trade. I'm gonna have to give it A getting in Wiseman. The only thing that'll be took question is will Wiseman defensively be as good as what Bumble was defensively?
Hmm.
That may be the only question mark. But offensively, we know he gonna give you way more. Bumble was pretty much just out there for defense. We
Hmm.
know Wiseman, you'll have to worry about him on the offensive end as well. Um, the thing that I see so many people are out here doing is getting these bigs, but mainly people focused on just a defensive big who's just out there. I mean, don't give you nothing. So I mean, I don't see that as a plus. A lot of people do view it as a plus. I don't view it as a plus. So overall, I'm gonna have to get the Grizz as an A plus. I mean, getting off of just defensive big and getting an offensive big, and you're learning you get Jaren out there still who can handle defensive centers if you need them to. I mean, offensive centers if you need them to. I think overall it's an A. The only question mark would be would the bench still be able to keep things afloat for this Grizz team. The
Hmm.
bench is kind of outside of Now and Moody. I don't know where the scoring is really gonna come from.
Yeah.
So that's gonna be the interesting thing about this Grizz team, is seeing when those starters are not in, how this team flows.
Yeah, I agree. I think we relied a lot on our bench unit last year, being able to go to those guys and be able to have Ja and Zach rest a little bit more and stuff like that. So it's gonna it's gonna put a lot of effort into Kyle and Kispert, Crowder. Those three guys really gonna have to step up for us, and even Jakob too as the backup 5. Like those guys gonna have to step up in some kind of way. Um,
Hmm.
but I think overall. I'm just happy we brought Thibault, job back. Like those were my two big guys. Like I needed to get back. Like those were key pieces. So
Right.
overall, excited. It'll be a different look. Lost a little bit more shooting too. So
Hmm.
it'll be a different look going into next season. So it'll be interesting.
Okay.
Interesting. These Hawks. I almost went over the damn Hawks, but hold on, let's see. The Hornets. Okay. So that's who got
The
Shake Milton.
Hornets.
Okay. So Shake did go to Charlotte. Okay. So we got the Charlotte Hornets. Team that went to the finals 2 out of 3 seasons, came in at the East. This team had a good off season last year. And they
Mm-hmm.
were a little conservative this year on this off season. But let's take a look at some of the pickups they had though. They had some pretty solid
Okay.
pickups overall. Um, First guy, they brought Shake Milton in on a 3-year deal for about 30 million. Shake is a good player. I think Keith was one of those guys who liked Shake from the get go years ago,
Mm-hmm.
and he's developed well into a solid player. 81 overall. Um, he has 2 shooting badges. I think he has a real good 3-point rating right now. 93 3-point rating. 6'5", Keith staple of the offense in Charlotte. Tall point
Mm-hmm.
guard. I think Shake fits them well. Gives LaMelo a little bit more spacing to work with. Another guy they got, the Israelite.
Man.
I don't I don't know what happened there. I mean the Wizards were very busy this off season, so I can understand him not having no room in Washington. But very surprised to see the Israelite here in Charlotte. 6'9" small forward, power forward. This is a very Keith like move for the Charlotte's
Mm.
ownership to get the Israelite. So I do like that pickup for him. 22 years old. I mean, this is like the second time Keith done kind of got a young guy from another team. It was Kai Jones last year, and now it's
Right.
the Israelite this year. So them Hornets are
Oh.
sneaky, man. Then they got Fournier. They signed Fournier to a 2-year deal. But for the most part, outside of that, man, they stood pat. The ownership felt
Mm.
like they had a team that was good enough to win a title last year. Um, yeah, he got the Israelite on a 1-year deal, which I don't get. But he did bring him in after the season, so it'd be interesting though that he let him go. But I guess this team gonna have potentially 94 million in cap space next year, which is
Mm.
very scary. Them and the I think the Knicks. So it's like the Hornets and the Knicks, man. They just keep going at it, and like in free agency and everything. The Hornets were going after the Knicks players in free agency. So this is a rivalry to continue. I like what Charlotte did overall. They remained pat. They felt like since they came out the East last year, they just need to add a few small pieces and retool and run it back. What's your thoughts on them, Kuno?
This team went 2072 last year, if I'm not mistaken. And like you mentioned, I mean, they kept pretty much everybody intact. He added a couple guys, the Israelite, like you mentioned. I don't know how Keith pulled that one off, but he got that one as well. And he got Shake Milton, who's always been a Keith favorite. Um, a little bird is saying that Big Val may be on his way out. So, I mean, that's going to be interesting to see because
Mm.
I feel like the way that Keith plays, Val helps him out. But other than that, I gotta give this team an A because I mean they stayed the same. It's the same team that made it to the finals last year, and he added even more shooting. So I mean, you can't knock him for that. I mean, I think that they still are gonna be the favorites in the East. I still got the Hornets as the favorite in the East. But it's gonna be interesting to see if this Val move happens. Will it hurt or help him in the long run? That's
Hmm.
gonna be the only thing to see.
Okay. Yeah, I agree. I gotta give him I give him an A. A. I don't think an A minus A, but I think he got the Israelite, he got Shake.
Hmm.
I feel like he didn't lose anybody necessarily. That he didn't lose any key players. He lost Cabangel, but I think he kept his main guy, who's this Boucher, who was big in the playoffs in several games. He also kept McDaniel's, who's a key piece. He is gonna have to possibly pay McDaniels next year. So next year is gonna
Hmm.
be next offseason is gonna be a pretty big year for Charlotte. It's gonna be a sink or swim year essentially. But this is essentially gonna be
Gotta
the
pay
last year.
LaMelo too. I just
Yeah,
thought you gotta
yeah.
try to pay LaMelo.
So this probably gonna be the last year with this core. I mean, Clay a free
Yeah.
agent, Jaden is a restricted. The Israelite will be a free agent. Boucher will be a free agent. JV's possibly on his way out. So this is the last year with this core.
That
Um,
whole team free agents.
yeah, yeah. So that's gonna be kind of scary right there, seeing what these Hornets gonna do. Okay,
Right.
okay. So they had a good off season though. I think they didn't have to do a lot. They came out the East, and I think they did the right thing. The Melo's getting better too, so that's always scary. Um,
Hmm.
okay, okay. Now we got the New York Knicks. The New York Knicks.
Yeah,
Um,
New York
right
Knicks.
after the Hornets. Right after the Hornets. So the Knicks knew, they lost to the Hornets last year. The Hornets they had an offseason strictly to try to beat this Knicks team last season, which they did. And the Knicks now came back this offseason and said, look, we ain't messing around now. We need to try to make sure we can come out this East next year. So you had the Knicks do a couple. They had a couple big moves. They were able to. One of the first moves they made, they acquired OG Anunoby from the Spurs, in a three-team deal, um, which was that was a very key pickup for them. Adding somebody like Ananobi from a defensive perspective, when they already have Kawhi, they'll be able to use Ananobi in several ways. Whether he's a starter, he can close out games. You can always use him on another team's best offensive player. So I really like that pickup. They also made some smaller deals, bringing in young player Josh Green from Dallas. That was a good pickup. They also
Mm.
kept Matt Thomas. They signed him to a 1 year deal, 1 year deal for $2 million. I mean, Matt Thomas. Look, we know Matt Thomas is a real deal. Just based on him being in New York, he was
He
averaging 20 a
displeased right
game.
now. Did
Yeah,
you
he
see
was.
that?
He
He ain't
displeased.
happy. Yeah, he displeased right
Ooh,
now. He ain't happy about New York.
hey, Carla. He deserved a little bit more money, Carla. But hey, he was like he wasn't expecting the offer, but this is a guy. He's been a elite shooter for New York. He brought him back on a 1 year deal. Great shooter. But hey, he's 29 years old. I don't know how happy he's gonna be in the long run, but we'll see how that plays out. And he may have a few other pieces too. Jabari Parker, Rodney Hood, he's added. Eric Bledsoe. He brought in Jalen LeCue as well.
Hmm.
And then
Hmm.
he got his center back, Diaco Baji, who they're very high on
He
as well.
he upset too. He's got a couple upset players in New York.
Yeah, it's a couple of upset guys right now in New York, man. So one thing that this Knicks team kind of missed out on was their point guard position. Kobe White
Hmm.
left. Kobe White is not in New York anymore, and also Emmanuel Quickly is not in New York. Quickly winning the deal with the Port
When the
Porzingis deal.
OG. Now
Now
he
he was
went an OG deal.
he was an OG deal, yeah,
Yep.
and so
Yeah.
yeah, and so Porzingis, but they did add Porzingis, who we got to highlight, and Porzingis right now is starting power forward. Um, he's a starting power forward right now at 28 years old. So you got KP back in New York. What's your thoughts on that one, Kino?
Okay. So when I talked about these teams with a defensive big out there, New York is the first team because I feel like he would be better starting Kawhi in OG and KP at the five, but I know Carlock, he loves that power forward mismatch. But I think that's gonna hurt him because obviously everybody's gonna put mainly their big on KP to stop that try to post mismatch, and Noel is gonna be pretty much useless out there for offense. I mean, nobody's really looking at Noel for offense.
Mm,
It's gonna be interesting to see what he does with this point guard situation. I don't know if he's gonna. I don't see any of these three guys staying on this team for the remainder of the year. These point guards who are here,
hmm.
Flynn, Bledsoe, or LeCure. I don't think neither one of them will remain on the Knicks. It's gonna be interesting to see how much OG and Jalen Green gets on the floor. Those were two key additions, but it's gonna be interesting to see how often do they really even play. Um, Other than that, the KP deal was good, but other than that, it wasn't much done in New York. So I'm gonna have to give this team a B minus.
Okay, okay. I think the point guard situation. It's tough right now. Let me ask you this: do you
Hmm?
think the starting point? Do you think whoever's the point guard right now in New York? Do you think they'll be the starting point guard by the end of the year? Currently on their
No,
team.
no.
Okay. Okay, I have to agree with that. I think New York. I think they went into this offseason. They made some good moves early on, and I think the moves made were essentially made thinking they would have another point guard or a better PG starting. So I think right now in New York, they have a very weak PG position right now. They may
Where
end
is
up
Kobe
running.
White?
Man, I don't know where is that man.
He went to Toronto on a 2-year deal, 30 mil almost.
Mmm.
Wow, that's
Mmm.
interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting. Okay, okay. So I think in New York they had Anunoby, KP, good trades, good pickups. But right now I think that Knicks point guard spot is a little tough. And also I think kind of it's gonna be interesting to see what they do with this front court spot too. I think Anunoby he's gonna find probably more time eventually as the season go on. I think he's very valuable at 6'7" and can guard threes and fours. So I think
Hmm.
a B for New York. I think I liked what New York did the last couple off seasons more than what they did this offseason. That's more so having to say that their point guard spot was that was a tough thing to lead the offseason with. So they're gonna have some question marks there until we see what kind of deals they're gonna make to try to address that point guard spot with Kawhi. Kawhi declined a little bit, but he's still Kawhi. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't really see that being a big issue. And then next year they're gonna be another cap space team, like the Hornets, and a few other squads. The Knicks and Hornets, man, they look like they're gonna be battling a lot of the same guys. But then next year, they potentially lose Booker and KP. Anunoby is
Mm.
a player option too. So this
Yeah.
could be the last year of this core too, just like the last year of the Hornets core. So it'd be
Hmm.
interesting. It'd be interesting. So I think a B minus is about right. I think that's a good, um, pretty good deal, pretty good grade. Okay,
Yeah.
okay. All right. Next up, Orlando Magic. The Orlando Magic. Um,
It.
the Magic. Um, they were rumored to be targeting SGA before the off season. They were very strong candidates to push for SGA, and somehow deals fell apart, and Miami jumped ahead of them to acquire SGA. That threw a wrench in the Orlando Magic plans. However, they were able to sign Van Fleet to a 4-year deal. Let me see, how much did they give? How much did they give Van Vliet? That was a pretty hefty deal, though.
4 years,
Um,
81.4.
woo! 4 years, 81 mil for Van Fleet. They also re-signed Seth Curry. They got Malik Beasley, Enes Kanter. They signed Vucevic back to a 1-year deal. But the big move that they made brought in Sabonis from Indiana. So they signed and trade Vucevic to Indiana for Sabonis, added Cole Anthony and Okiki and a future first round pick for Sabonis, who's still injured, by the way. Sabonis will be missing some time when he's in Orlando. But Orlando needed a
Hmm.
guy. I think Vucevic was a big time player for them. Starting in year one and try to going into year two, but Vucevic has gotten older. And Orlando needed a big that they could rely on in the half court. So they ended
Mm.
up able to trade for Sabonis, who's entering his prime. He's a good big, 6'11" big, good rebounder. It's gonna be interesting to see though with this backcourt looks like with Van Vliet and CJ McCollum. Um, this is a backcourt, and then they got Steph Curry. This is a backcourt that can obviously shoot and can score, but can they stop anybody? They
Hmm.
have Isaac, they have Zaire Williams, who are big time players defensively too. But I think outside of those guys, defensively, this team may run into some issues. What's your thoughts on what this team is looking like, Kuna?
Man, I think it's okay. The additions was good. Van Vliet, pretty solid deal. 29. I mean, he's gonna be what 30, 32 when his deal's going on this end.
Hmm.
Is that a last year player option just straight up?
No, it's 4 years straight up.
Okay, so we're gonna start seeing a decline of Van Fleet, but I mean, I think the value's still there for now. CJ has declined a lot. He's on the last year at 35
Ooh,
million.
that boy
That's a
80.
tough contract. There's not it's not much wings. I mean, he only got one small forward on the team. Traditional small forward. You got Beasley and Harris who are kind of undersized. So this team runs in a lot what we talked about with the Bulls kind of being undersized on the wing spots. Outside of Zaire, who's 6'8". I mean, nobody else that you would play in the three is going to be even the type of be that high. It'd be interesting to see if Isaac slides down and plays in the time at the three. He
Hmm.
tries to go a little big with that rookie center when he get out there and play. Um, Man, the only deal was really that Van Fleet deal and getting the Sabonis trade. But
Hmm.
like you mentioned, Sabonis could opt out too. Well, this he on last year his deal, so he could be gone. So I mean, it's not really too much winning going on in Orlando with the off-season moves. Because I mean, besides Van Fleet, almost all these guys will be gone after this year or
Hmm.
could potentially be gone. So I mean, I'm gonna have to give the Magic a B. I think the SGA fall through really hurt him. I don't know what happened there, but I'm gonna have to give the Magic a B. Van Vliet was a decent pickup, but I mean, I saw Van Vliet personally last year in the playoffs, and so I saw how he kind of was not a factor. So it'll be interesting to see what he changed here in Orlando.
Yeah. I think, he lost Oladipo as well, who was older. That CJ decline is may really hurt. I
Hmm.
mean, a 80 overall. It's going to be tough, and it's going to be interesting to see how he utilizes backcourt. I don't know if he's going to start both of these guys, or utilize CJ in another way as maybe a six man or something like that. But I think they're gonna have some big decisions to make. Zaire Williams can play the two, so I could see him
Hmm.
possibly putting him at the two, and running some Isaac at the three, like you mentioned, two. Um, Next season, next off season, they'll have some money. They'll be a cap space team as well. Um, Mike said if he started both, I'm licking my chops.
Damn, Mike.
So yeah, I think I'm giving a C plus, B minus. I think this
Okay.
Magic team needed a little bit more size at that point guard spot. They did get Monty Morris too. So this team, they have a lot of shooters. I'll say that they got guys that can shoot, put the ball up. But this is
Right.
this another GM. He's complained a lot about defense adjustments, stuff like that. So I don't know if this necessarily helps him. But this center he drafted too. He drafted him at 19 in the first round. Vincent, is it Vincent
Mhm.
Awuchukwu? Ajukuku? Uh, he's a dog now. So 80 mid range, 7 feet. He could be big for him too. So it'll be interesting to see how he manages that front court with with his back court being a liability on defense. So I think
Yeah.
So Kuno said B, B minus,
Yeah, B
uh,
minus.
and I said like C plus. So C plus, B minus. Okay, that's Orlando. That's Orlando. All right, so we got Nets, Nuggets, Pelicans, Spurs,
Sun,
Suns, and the Sonics
Super
and
Sun.
Wizards. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we got about 6 teams left or so. All right, so these Brooklyn Nets, they had a blockbuster deal. They had a blockbuster deal early in the offseason, moving Kyrie to the Pelicans. Um, they essentially had to break up that big three with Kyrie, Harden, and KD. Uh, it's just they couldn't pay him. I mean, Brooklyn's a big market, but I mean these guys, they were all three of those guys were making 120 plus mil every year, and that's just hard to sustain with a roster full of 12 to 15 players. So
Mm-hmm.
I think they did right moving on from Kyrie, and they brought in Lonzo Ball from the Pelicans, who we all know about. He won a title with the Pelicans in year one, but things just didn't work out for him after the Pelicans extended him. Pelicans was looking at other options, and they wanted a better pairing with Zion, which I understand. Um, So I like the pairing with Lonzo in the backcourt with Harden. Um, two things that I think going to hurt this Nets team, man, is just Harden and KD just getting older. These two guys decline over the
Mm,
offseason. Harden's at 89 now at 34. KD's at 89 at 35. I'm sure they lost some sort of badge, downgrades or something like that, but they still are. I mean, look, they still elite now. But I just think for them to be paid this amount of money moving forward, it's going to be tough. But I think they have a more manageable team too. Just to highlight a
mm-hmm,
few other guys, they drafted Ryan Mutombo with the 11th pick, the Kimbe's son. Well, I think is a good pickup for them. They lacked size last year. Um,
mm-hmm.
and I think, if there's one thing they were missing was a guy they could rely on to get boards, block shots, and defend the paint. So, but what I kind of didn't get was they used a lot of their other picks on bigs as well. They got Derek Lively with the 7th pick in their draft, um, who's a 7 foot big. I mean, this guy, he's decent, and I think he can play. You either star him or star Matumbo. It was just curious to see that they used both of their bigs. Uh,
Over the
Call said
picks
they
on the
messed up my
big.
Matt Thomas contract like the Ja deal, signed him to a 3-year deal. I thought you did. I thought I did see a 3-year deal when I looked at the free agency early on. But yeah.
It was upset when he left.
But yeah, Brooklyn, man, they Brooklyn's gonna be there. I think in the end, Harden, KD, those guys gonna do what they do. I don't think that's the question. I think the question is gonna be how their role players step up with Lonzo being there. The new centers they done added, Nico Mannion, who got a 2-year deal there. Um, but man, outside of that, it's a lot of minimal contract guys, man. So what's your thoughts on them,
So the Nets are again top heavy, but those two top guys, like you mentioned, have declined. I mean, it's gonna be a terrible decline on those contracts. They still got 4 years, 44 million, and it's just the beginning of the decline. So that's gonna be
Mm-hmm.
interesting to see. Getting off Lamelo, I mean not Lamelo. Who is it they get off?
Kyrie.
Kyrie. Getting off Kyrie for Lamelo kind of opened them up a little bit for a little more flexibility. Let me see what they're gonna have next year. Next year they're gonna be as cap strapped. It'll be a -6 million.
Yep.
So, but those two guys are in eventually long run are gonna start hindering him, just being declining and being owed so much money. I wasn't opposed to the two centers they drafted back to back. I mean, I guess he can pick and choose which one he'll like better. Want to be the backup unless he still wants to play right side. We'll have to see what happens there. Power forward don't really get much with Chris or Wilson. So I mean, it still looks like that'll be pretty much the scoring is going to be Harden and Durant. Lonzo may give him a little bit more. I like the Nico signing. He's a good backup point guard. He can shoot. So that should help him out a little bit. But like I said, those other guys, he had Tyler Johnson, Austin Rivers, Royce O'Neal, Patrick McCaw. It's a lot of just average Joes on this team as well. So it's like it's Harden, Durant. You got Lonzo and just the guys. So that's gonna be. I think Brooklyn kind of took a step back. I gotta give them a C+ on that one.
Yeah, I gotta go with a C with Brooklyn. I think in the long run, man, they're gonna have to move on. They're gonna have to blow it up. I think that somehow they're gonna have to blow this thing up. Kyrie was the first ball to fall, but I just don't think holding on to Harden and KD is gonna benefit them in the long run. I mean, these guys are getting worse every year. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
so I don't know. I think they're gonna have to blow this team up, man, in one way or another. But hey, Brooklyn, y'all y'all got two studs still. And Lonzo's still developing too, but we'll see what this team gonna do. As we move forward, it's potential they could move on to some more guys, but we're gonna see. We're gonna see. But okay,
Mm-hmm. We'll
so
see.
I agree with that grade. I think a C or something like that, or a C+ Brooklyn was about right for what they did.
Okay.
And to be fair, I mean
Okay.
he wasn't here. Brooklyn's GM wasn't here for the off season too. So
Yeah, he wasn't
uh,
here.
okay. The Denver Nuggets. The Denver
Denver
Nuggets.
Nuggets.
So this team, they talked a lot about after that Jokic trade on how, this Pacers pick was going to be this and Pacers pick was going to be that. I didn't think he thought that pick was going to be fifth. And I also don't think he thought the guy who fell to him at five was going to be there. But give credit when credit's due. The Nuggets being able to draft Victor Wembanyama at five, that's a steal. It's a steal. I think although Brandon Miller and Bates are better rated overall, Victor is a 7'2" big who can pretty much do it all. I mean, he can shoot. I think he can post up. He can handle. Man got a 76
Mm-hmm.
ball handle. Uh,
Mm.
he can defend interior. He's not that great rebounding. But I think when you pair him 7'2" with Bobo 7'2", I mean, that's a tough front court and MPJ at the three. So that's a tough ass front court for Denver. Man, to be honest, I like what they did this offseason. They didn't have too good of an offseason last year, in my opinion. But I think this year they were able to hold on to Winslow and Shamet. Those were, especially Shamet. Shamet was a guy I think they highly coveted last year. And then they drafted Victor. They also took Thunmaker from New York. That was an interesting move having Thunmaker in Denver now. So expect him to be seeing a lot of minutes as the backup big, probably most of a backup four. Uh, they brought in Javon Carter too, interesting pickup, and then they got some veterans in Otto Porter, Bogdanovich, Damian Lee. They got a few guys out there. So overall, I mean, if you're looking at this projected lineup for the Nuggets, they got Jamal Murray at the one, either Winslow or Shaman at the two, MPJ at the three, Bobo at the four, Victor at the five. You gotta like that front court. What's your thoughts on the Nuggets all season?
Man, like you said, the pick didn't turn out like he thought it would, but just so happened nothing is really set in stone, and Victor was able to fall to him based off, basically off what. Oh, who went right before him? I don't even know who went before him.
Man, it was terrible. I think that dude Trace, he went. So Ingram, the Pelicans drafted. Let's see, Ingram went number what, five?
Whoever,
No,
I don't know.
six.
I forgot who went before him. I forgot who went before him.
So the
But that pretty much,
Raptors,
yeah, the Raptors did it. Did with
they took who did they
who was
take?
it?
Quentin Grimes. They took Quentin Grimes at three.
Three. That's what opened it up right there. The Quentin
Mm-hmm.
Grimes thing. So that'll be interesting to see. But man, just based off of Victor falling to him alone, I'm gonna have to give him an A. A minus. I'm gonna say A minus because he didn't really do much else outside of that. Murray's still a good guy. Murray was with second to MVP last year, so
Yep.
that was good. Shamit brought him. He brought Shamit back. Okay, Shamit played good. MPJ's good. Otto Porter's a good underrated signing. I faced Otto Porter a couple times, and he's a good shooter. So I mean, that's an underrated signing. Bo had a tremendous year last year. I can see he can only continue to get better. And we got Victor being, I mean, pretty much the steal. If you want to call it a steal, that was a steal at their peak. I like adding Thunmaker. Um, it'll be interesting to see if he's used how he's been, how I've seen him being used primarily in Utah. I mean, I don't know Utah, in New York, the last couple years. Winslow's still out there. Winslow didn't really do much offensively for him. I think he's mainly out there for defense and little playmaking stuff. So that'll be interesting. I thought Adrian Griffin would have been more involved this year, but it don't seem like that's going to happen. And the main thing that's going to interest me is this backup point guard thing. Do I think Javon Carter or Cam Payne will play in meaningful minutes, like when games really count? I don't think so. So I think it'll be just seeing how this rotation, going off what the niggas did recently when they shortened up their rotation when they play games, he feel like important games. That's gonna be the interesting thing to see. Is the guys that actually play when he starts shortening those rotation down. But
Mm-hmm.
just getting Victor, I think was a big steal and a good plus. So I'm gonna have to give him an A minus on that one.
Yep. Yep. I give the Nuggets an A off season, man. CK always talk about when you don't get a good grade, so you get an A. CK, you getting an A this time. I think that Victor signing really set the Nuggets up, for a good off season and a good year. Um, so it's gonna be interesting, man. I think folks are gonna really look at that draft, that top end of the draft, kind of similar to how we looked at that first draft with the Jalen Suggs. Jalen Suggs
Yeah.
move and everything. I think a lot of people gonna look back at that, man, and especially between Philly and Denver, because Brandon Miller.
Yeah.
We'll really take a look at Brandon Miller versus the impact Victor gonna have. So
Yeah.
good off season from the Nuggets. Good off season. All right, the New Orleans Pelicans. Uh,
Bankroll.
year one champs, the Pelicans. They felt like they needed to make a splash this year. And I like it. I like the move they made to get Kyrie Irving. Kyrie Irving's a big time player, 31 years old, 28 badges. Zion needed more shooters around him, and I think that New Orleans tried to do that, this offseason. Um, they made some other moves as well, so they were able to pick up. Let me go back to the contracts right quick.
Okay.
Let's see. So they have Kyrie on the books for the next 4 years. Zion, Kyrie pairing is gonna be nice. They were able to bring Jackson Hayes back, which was pretty surprising originally. I guess I was thinking they had their eyes on someone else, but they did lock Hayes up on a 4-year deal. Last year being a team option. It'll be interesting to see how valuable Hayes is going to be for them over the course of this time. He paying them essentially 20 million a year as his starting center. Um,
Hmm.
he has Bogdan Bogdanovic, the younger brother, who's 31. Solid player overall. He was in Atlanta originally. They kept DeRozan on the team at 10 million. Not sure what his plans are with DeRozan. He's a 73, but he could be dead weight. The biggest thing, man, for these Pelicans, they moved up in the draft as well. They got the sixth pick in the draft
Hmm.
and took Harrison Ingram. They
Right.
they moved Brandon Ingram to Detroit in that 3-team deal with Kyrie and with the Nets for Kyrie. But Harrison Ingram is the pick that I think left a lot of us scratching our head. Um,
Hmm.
top 6 pick. I think New Orleans was really trying to nail this pick. Really trying to nail this pick. And Ingram's he's not a bad player. I just think maybe it was a reach. He's a 6'6" overall player, 3 badges, decent shot. But just not sure if that's the guy that they really wanted when it came to pairing him with Zion and Kyrie. But being with those guys may make them better. Um,
Hmm.
One guy that I think the Pelicans are excited about is Dylan Anderson. They picked him up on a 1-year deal. He's a stretch big at 7'1", can shoot the ball, so he'll provide a lot of spacing for Zion too. And outside of that, they signed McDermott, who's a great shooter, Tim Hardaway Jr., Danilo Gallinari. So they have some veterans. Um, I think the main concern I got for this team is outside of Kyrie and Zion, who else is gonna step up from scoring
Right.
wise? Like, I think Kyrie and Zion is who they is. They gonna perform, but it's who else is gonna be the that third guy that's gonna be able to help them. So they got the shooters, but it's whether or not they have a third scorer out there potentially too. What's your thoughts?
Um, I'm gonna piggyback off of that. As a team who's played the Pelicans the 2 years in the playoffs, I know how important Bi was. So that's
Hmm.
interesting to see Bi being gone because Bi was more dangerous than Zion to me in any game I played on from a scoring aspect. Kyrie is great. We know how good Kyrie is, and BHB has typically been pretty good with an attacking point guard. So that's a great sign. Just getting the Kyrie trade alone prepare him to the A range. But what I'm gonna knock him off is the move up for Harrison Ingram, who isn't gonna be a guy who I think is gonna even play in really meaningful games.
Hmm.
That's I'm gonna have to knock him for that for moving up from 11 to 6. The move he made for to get a guy who probably is not gonna really play any meaningful minutes this season. Gonna have to knock him for that one. I'm shocked, like you did. Jackson Hayes came back, and I thought he was looking in the market for these other bigs out here, but he did bring them back. So that's a solid bring back. But that third score, who is it going to be? I'm going to assume it's going to be between TSJ or McDermott, but both of those guys are more like catch and shoot guys. Not a guy who can really just take you off the dribble and get what he wants like BI could. So that's going to be the interesting thing to see for the Pairs, like who's going to be outside of Kyrie or Zion, who's going to do a lot of the scoring. So I'm going to have to get the Pairs a A minus.
Okay, okay. Um, yeah, Tim Hardaway. Looking at the first game, Tim Hardaway Jr. did put up 21. It looks like he's gonna be
Mm-hmm.
their star in two. He's a good player at 31. So it looks like he's probably gonna have to step up into that third option role for him. I think it's really gonna depend on to see what Hayes do. But I just think that pick. I think he's gonna regret that pick, and I don't, he probably already regrets the pick a little bit. Uh, so I mean, overall, I love the Kyrie move. Don't necessarily
Mm-hmm.
like the pick, and I think that probably averages him out to like a B for me, a B
Okay.
plus all season. Kyrie being an
Okay.
A, A plus move, and I think the pick being more of like a C minus move
Yeah.
for me. Okay, okay.
Okay.
All right. So
Go ahead.
next up, we don't got too many more teams left. So next up, we got the San Antonio Spurs. We got the Spurs GM on right now. So like the off season for the Spurs, we had a surprising move by Boston, letting Evan Mobley walk. Just not sure what Boston's doing over there. They let both of their young guys go in Baisley and Mobley. And the Spurs took advantage. Tim Duncan, he saw something in Evan Mobley as a future center, and I honestly love that pickup for them. Mobley, we know what Mobley's made of. We saw a little bit of him in OKC during them first years. But Mobley's a big time player. 7 feet, 7 badges, only 21 years old. He's gonna be a Mike said, treat him well, fam. The teacher and timid. Mobley's gonna be big for San Antonio. This was a team last year who had some real tough games, tough outs in the playoffs. They played Seattle last year in the playoffs, and you lost it what, six? Was it six? Yeah,
Six.
yeah, lost in six to Seattle, who was that was a tough out. Seattle was a tough out. And this team, we already knew this team had the defense. We already knew this team was a defensive monster with Murray and Walker, Vassell or Vassell. They added Collins as well last year. So now you may end up seeing a lot more Mobley and Collins lineups, where last year you saw a lot more Collins at the five and Anunoby at the four. So although they lose the defense in Anunoby, they still have Vassell. They still have Lonnie Walker. They still have some solid vets with Torian Prince, Cam Johnson. And then their backcourt with Trey Jones and Murray. And they also brought in small guard, Kahhi Clark. Kahhi Clark, he's very fast on this game. I think he got like 96 speed or something like that. But I really like this team now because it kind of reminds me of the old Spurs team when they had Duncan originally, and Mobley is going to be that franchise center for them. Obviously, they think of him like that because they brought him in on a 4-year max. Uh, so this is going to be a guy that can really turn this franchise around in terms of pushing them past where they were last year and really being a true contender. If I want to ask San Antonio Spurs GM, what went through your mind, and what went going into the off season? I think y'all focus was on acquiring a big, but it probably didn't know it would be Mobley originally. So what went through your
Mm.
mind in bringing Mobley on board?
Um, Really much it was like I said, my mindset was Embiid. I mean, we had talks with Embiid and we thought that he was gonna be a shoe in here in San Antonio. But primarily we wanted to shift the focus off John Collins. Too many games I played, a team would try to put their primary best big on Collins and let Jakob pretty much rock. And we wanted to get away from it. We want you to pick and choose who you think you can stop between the bigs. Both of them are pretty much what I call modern bigs. They can step out, shoot the three, and Mobley can actually handle the ball. We've been seeing free sets where he's actually brought the ball up the court, so we'll see how they work out in the long
Mm.
run. I was kind of high on Vassell. I feel like getting him and letting OG walk was pretty much a wash. He's a far better shooter than OG, and defense is pretty much tit for tat. He's just a bit smaller, so I think it'll work well for the three. And Alonso was trying to take a lot of the pressure off IV. We saw when IV had that monster year in what was it 21-22, and the
Hmm.
next year all the focus kind of focused on stopping IV. We saw Murray in the latter parts of last year kind of step up once he started seeing it happen. So now we want to go to a well balanced type approach where we don't think there's no one person you can focus on trying to stop. If we do, we got other guys who can pick up the slack. I did bring Trey Jones back. I feel like he was going to command a lot more offers than he did. So that was good to see that he was able to come back. And like you mentioned, Kahee Clark, he's gonna play. I know a lot of people think him being 5'9", 157, he won't play, but he's most definitely gonna see action and
Dang,
get out there on the floor.
157. I ain't know that. Dang, I ain't know anybody will weigh 157.
he,
Damn.
he gonna get out. He gonna get out there.
That's
He
what
gonna
Mike
most
said. He's
definitely
taking to
get
get
out
baptized.
there. He was definitely getting out there. So overall, I mean, I pretty much kept my team intact. I didn't do much. Only person who's really gone that played consistently is OG. We lost Salmonic as well,
Hmm.
but just getting mobile. I'm gonna give myself an A.
Yep. I think this is one of my favorite off seasons. This team they set up real well right now because not only this year they set up really well this year to contend, but next year they're gonna potentially they could potentially be a count space team. And that's another thing to add. You know, they'll have the ability to make some moves next offseason too to add on to Mobley, who's just 21. That's the key thing to
21.
remember. 21 years old. I mean that's a lot of years left in this man. So 21 years old, potential franchise star center. So very good off season from the Spurs too. I have to go with an A as well, A plus, um, for what they did. And it wasn't a lot of good bad contracts either, which is what I like too. They have a lot
Mhm.
of friendly contracts. I don't think any of these guys on their team, um, it's like I don't want that contract. I think they are able to move on any of these guys if they have
All
to.
right.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So we got only three more teams. We got the Suns, the
The
Sonics,
Phoenix
and
Suns.
the Popovich Wizards. All right, so we're gonna go with these Suns. The Suns, um, they, the Suns did what they had to do. They had to bring back Bridges. Um, they had Aiden. They got Aiden. They had Hunter and Smart on contracts already. And Clarkson picked up his player option, which kind of limited some of his flexibility. Um, and Aaron Gordon they traded for with Cleveland early in the year. Where this team was kind of messed up at last year is they didn't really have a power forward. They tried Scotty Barnes out, to an extent. Scotty Barnes was solid defensively, but it's still hard for him to uh, command true 4 minutes.
Ah, that's who they
Uh,
took over Jalen Suggs that year.
yeah,
Scotty
so Scotty Barnes is
Barnes.
who they took over Jalen Suggs, and I mean right now, I mean Barnes is averaging about 5 a game in these each of these seasons. So it'd be interesting to see if the Suns are looking to especially since he has a team option coming up next year, really trying to evaluate Barnes and see if he's a long term option. They did pick up Harrison Barnes, who was a solid pickup for him. He's a 3-4 who can shoot. I think providing a little bit more space in there helps, especially with Jalen Green there. I think he needs more spacing around him. With their first round pick, they had two first round picks, the 18th pick and the 20th pick. They drafted Bryce Griggs, who's point guard out of Texas,
Bryce.
and Keyonte George, another guard out of Texas. So they got two Texas products. Um,
Mm.
George can't really shoot, but he has defensive potential. Griggs is a pretty good shooter, and I'm anticipating Griggs replacing Devontae Graham in some sort of way. in the long run. So this Suns team, I think they had a decent offseason. They brought Bridges back on a 4-year deal. This is a guy I felt like they needed to keep. He's also a part of their defensive structure. The question is for the Suns is how, whether or not they're going to be able to take that next step forward this year. I think they have a pretty talented squad, and Jalen Green is definitely, he's 21 years old, and he's definitely one of the better players in the league overall, just based on his abilities. And he's growing as
Mhm.
well. So I think the Suns they had a decent off season, but it's whether or not they're going to take that next step. What's your thought?
Jalen Green. I agree with you 100%. From the looks of it, this team is pretty much intact. The same core is pretty much here. So that's always a plus when you're able to keep all your core guys intact. And I don't think they lost anybody. I'm looking of significance that played with them last year. So that's a key factor. Like you said, the thing is about what can they do. I think the last 2 years the team has been messed up with the Nuggets in the playoffs, both years, and that's been a demise each of the first 2 years they've made the playoffs. So it'll be interesting to see are they able to like you said, take this step forward when it comes playoff time. Will they avoid that matchup, or will they finally overtake the Nuggets, who it seems like it's been kind of their playoff nemesis so far? I'm gonna have to give them an A minus because everything is still intact. They got Aiden still here, which is gonna be key for. It seems like the center position is coming back. So being having Aiden there seems like it's gonna be a key good thing. You still got smart, good defense on the for your guards. Jalen Green, like you mentioned, has just been incredible, averaging 25 last year, and they still got Bridges. It's gonna be interesting to see, like you said about Devontae. What does he do? Do Greaves play more? And to start replacing Devontae, or would Devontae still be out? I think Devontae's still serviceable. He got 13 badges, still a pretty good shooter. So it's going to be all about what this team do, taking the next step. I think they've shown that they can win, and they're a threat. But it's just can they take the next step out in the West?
Agreed, agreed. I think it's going to depend on how they maximize Aiden. I think Aiden took a slight step back last year. He
Okay.
averaged 14 a game. He averaged
Yeah.
20 a game in that first year. I like to see them try to utilize Aiden a little bit more because they need another big time scorer to essentially help out Green. And he's the
Okay.
only one I can really see, taking that step for
Step.
him.
Gotcha.
Okay. I
Okay.
think I'll give Phoenix a B plus. I give them a
Okay.
B plus. They didn't. I don't think they lost anybody that really hurts them. It's just going to
Mm-hmm.
be dependent on how they develop this season. Okay.
Gotcha.
Okay. Last two. Last two. The Seattle Supersonics. Um,
Super Mike.
Supersonics. They brought in Trey Young last year in a big time deal that sent Buddy Hield to Atlanta. They also we know the team had Evan Mobley, Baisley. They had a lot of assets on this team, and we're starting to see now how they're cashing in on some of those assets that they had. Um, Trey Young and Jalen Brown, those are your top two core guys. These guys are kind of locked in. Um, well, Jalen Brown's actually he has 1 year left after this year, so pretty interesting with Jalen Brown being has 1 year left after this year, and being an
Mm.
unrestricted free agent as a superstar for this team. So interesting. These Sonics brought in Wendell Carter, Cam Reddish, and Miles Turner. Those were their three big names that they brought in. Interesting though, they had Nikola Jokic locked in on a contract after day one of free agency, and they decided to move elsewhere. I thought that was extremely interesting because a trade Brown and Jokic big three. I think that would have been difficult to deal with, but it looks like Seattle wanted to take another direction and focus more on the two defensive bigs in Carter and Turner, and then also a young wing and Reddish. I'm not sure if that Reddish signing is a sign of what's going to happen with Jalen Brown in the future. Um, but very interesting offseason from Seattle. They also brought in Myers Leonard, Ben McLemore, a few minimum level guys. Garrison Matthews, a former Grizz, brought him in. John Wall, he got John Wall on a 1+1 deal, so got a veteran in there too. Um,
God damn.
so look, Seattle, they were, and they also got a new coach. They got rid of Kidd. Who is Seattle bringing as their coach? That's what I want to see. Because
Mike
Mike
Malone, if I'm
Malone,
mistaken.
okay, Mike Malone and Dan Tony's the assistant, okay. So hey, I like the Mike Malone signing. I like the Jay Kidd signing last year too, Mike, but he has some domestic issues that apparently came up. He has some domestic assault issues, so Kidd is out of Seattle. What's your thoughts on Seattle going with this with Wendell and Turner, and also adding Reddish and essentially replacing Jokic, who they had locked in after the first day?
All right. So I've faced the Super Saints the last 2 years in the playoffs as well. With last year, it was going six, six. Yeah, we went six. Jalen Brown was key. Um, Trey Young, we kind of neutralized a bit, but he has so many other things that worked for him. It's gonna be interesting to see how Turner and Carter. First off, I feel like Carter's gonna win Most Improved just based off of how his production is gonna be from where he was last year with the Bulls. He averaged 4 points a game. I'm sure he's gonna average 20 plus with Mike this year, so I'm pretty sure that's gonna be Most Improved Player of the Year off top. Miles Turner, um, might probably get a little bit more out of him than we saw with the Nuggets. But the interesting thing with me is going to be how Mike goes with the bench play. Last year, he was very interchangeable with Trey and SGA. He almost always kept one of them out at point guard. This year, he's going to go from Trey to I don't know if Jordan McLaughlin is going to stay his backup point guard. It's going to be interesting to see. I don't know who's going to be the primary backup shooting guard. I know Mike has a lot of options with Valentine, Bean McLemore, Burks, Matthews. So it's going to be interesting to see who some of the similar to what I mentioned with the Grizzlies. It's going to be what the bench for Seattle is able to do because the starters are going to always do well. Mike mostly always maximize on that type of talent. But these bench players is going to be interesting to see how often they play and what they're able to do when they're out there on the court.
Yeah.
I wasn't a fan of the Jokic deal, but maybe Mike knows something that we don't. So I can't knock him from it. But I feel like like you mentioned, Jokic, Jalen, and Trey. I feel like they would have been a great three piece. But Mike wants to go elsewhere, like you said, with Wendell Carter and Mal. So knowing Mike, he knows what he's doing. So I feel like that may work for him better.
Mm. Yeah.
Overall, I'm gonna give him a just for having Jokic and letting him go though. I'm gonna have to give Mike a B plus for doing it because I
Mm-hmm.
that one shocked me.
Hmm. I think I'll say this. Moving SGA, I understood moving SGA, but I thought the move for SGA would be to essentially find an upgraded player as that third option behind Trey and Jalen Brown. So the fact that he lost SGA, I had to factor that in into him bringing in. He essentially lost Noel, Collie Stein, SGA, and brought in Carter, Reddish, and Turner. Uh, I just think Mike defensively is gonna be good, of course. Brown, Carter, Turner, all those guys, along with Reddish, who can play the two and the three. Those are gonna be good defensive players. But I think having Jokic, Jokic was there. Had he visited the Starbucks corporate office and everything. I really thought Jokic was gonna be there, and I honestly can say, like, if I looked at this team with Jokic right now, I'd be even more scared. But I think I got to go with a B off season. I think with Jokic, I would have been more than enough, gave him an A plus, just because of the strategy he would have used. But it's gonna be interesting. I mean, only thing I can say is it's gonna depend on how much he missed SGA because SGA was big in our series
He was
in
in
the conference
mine too
final.
because he was really big in the playoffs on the last two rounds. SGA was.
Yeah. So I think Trey did get better too. I mean Trey's better, and it's gonna be interesting with another year under his belt in Seattle. Him maybe maximizing Trey a bit more too. So, but yeah, I think about a B for the Sonics is what I give them. Would have been much higher, I think, with Jokic, though.
Okay.
Jokic deal. All right, final team, and probably the team with the best overall offseason, probably gonna get the best overall offseason grade. Them damn Wizards, man. Them damn Wizards. They always surprise us every
They
year.
damn will.
They damn will with Popovich, man. Popovich is a wizard, dog. Like he can somehow lure these guys in. But the top free agent target I think of the year or the off season was Joel Embiid,
Uh-huh.
superstar from Philly, left Philly for which had a max deal in place with Philly and took them 4 year max with Washington to team up with Bradley Beal, who they also brought back on a 5 year,
On a
200 I think it's
terrible,
5 year,
terrible contract.
$217 million deal. Um, hey, Bradley Beal gonna be at the end of that contract. He's gonna be 34 years old. So I think Bill right now is gonna be he's gonna be who he is. He's 24 badges. Bill's gonna be great this first year. I think the concerns gonna start coming maybe going into next year when Bill gets a
Mm-hmm.
little bit up in age. But him and Embiid both are around the same age, so their parents should put together, along with Brogdon too, was a solid pickup. Malcolm Brogdon's he brought Brogdon back after having him last year. So he got Brogdon, who is 30 years old. So between Embiid, Bill, and Brogdon, those three guys are right smack dab in their prime. So this team is going to be very scary in the East with a guy like Embiid, and we know what Bill has done for this team in the past. Consistent 26, 28, 30 point per game score. Some other guys they brought in was Dylan Brooks.
Mm-hmm.
Villain, they brought in the villain Brooks, who should be a nice addition to him. They also brought in Karis LeVert. So this is a team that got some wing players in that, and they not to mention Terrence Clark, who they still have. They were able to bring Jeremy Grant back. This team has some wings, man. They have some depth now. They also still got PJ Washington too. So they built a solid team, man, around Bill and Embiid as their top two stars. So the question is gonna be is how this team gonna perform. You know, like they got the talent, but what they gonna do when it come down to playoff time? And I think a lot of people are gonna be now looking at the Wizards doing these season games. They're gonna probably much see TV this year with Embiid
Right.
and Bill out there. So what's your thoughts on them, Kino?
Man, so Will, congrats to Will, man, because MB was a sought after target, and I don't know, Pop or Fit. Maybe I made a mistake letting Pop go. But Pop is doing it in Washington, man. For one, with Will, he's always been a user who can catch you. That's one of the things with everybody, a general consensus with Will is he can always catch you. But now I feel like he got that neutralizer with MB. Somebody who just like, if feel like if he need a bucket, somebody he pretty sure could probably go get that bucket for him. I didn't like. I like bringing Beal back, but I think with Beal we're gonna see the same thing that's going on in Brooklyn, a decline on a tough contract. So that could be a deterrent. He still has Clark. I like bringing Levert in. I like the dealing. I like the Dior Johnson draft pick. It's
Hmm.
crazy that he fell that far down to him at 21. That was pretty. That's a good pickup for Will right there. He brought Brogdon back. Yeah, he had Brogdon, right? Yeah, he brought
Yeah.
Brogdon back. So I mean, everything is pretty much intact. And with adding Embiid, I got to give Will an A plus, man. But like you said, the big thing is gonna be what does he do with it. The East, I think the top three teams are pretty much set. So it's gonna be between Will. I expect to see Will. Can he overtake one of them top three teams? That's gonna be the goal for I think for the Wizards this year. Is see can they
Hmm.
overtake one of those top three teams?
Yep. And that'll be what Hornets, Knicks, and
Cavs.
Cavs. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep. I agree, man. I think Embiid is Embiid is a superstar in this game, and there ain't too many guys like that, like Embiid on here. So it'll be interesting to see how he uses Embiid. Popovich uses Embiid in Washington. But
Right.
I got to give him an A plus. I think this is I mean, it was close. I think we had a lot of teams who had great off seasons this off season. So, shout out to a lot of teams. I do a real quick recap on the best off seasons, but Wizards I think get my overall
Yes,
best
sir.
off season. They brought in a
Mm-hmm.
superstar. They maintained a solid core around Beal. Um, and they, I think, it remains to be seen how them contracts look long term. But can't fault them for what they did though.
Right.
Okay. So overall best off season, Washington. Um, the
Wizards.
other guys who got A's, the Spurs got an A. Um, Michael said, bulletin board.
Yes,
uh,
sir, Mike.
Spurs got an A, Nuggets got an A. Um, let's see. Hornets they got an A.
Grizzlies got
Grizz got
a.
an A. Yep, Cavs got an A. Yep. So I mean, that's about five teams: Cavs, Grizz, Nuggets, man, Spurs, Hornets, Wizards. All had I think a better off season. So great off season, man, for a lot of guys. I think. Like what Kuno said, it's the return of the bigs, man. This is gonna be a interesting year with the big man play. Uh, so appreciate the special guest, co-host Chris Crusard on the mic.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, we'll probably do a follow up, closer to the trade deadline and see how everybody doing in these games. But we're gonna get kicked off with these games, man. Hope everybody have a good week. See me in later. Anything you
I
got left,
say,
Chris Crusard?
I say, follow up. My one thing is, man, shout out. I want to say back to the Knicks, who I feel like my question to the Knicks is, would that KP mismatch be as important as keeping two defensive players off the court? I want to see what
Mm-hmm.
that happens with them, along with their point guard situation. 'Cause I feel like I don't think the Knicks went to get OG to keep him on the bench, but
Mm-hmm.
I know how he likes their KP at the power forward. So it's going to be interesting to see, is KP at the power forward more important than having two good defensive players out there?
hmm I agree, and you said something important too. KP at power forward also don't mean you know everybody gonna give him that advantage. It ain't nothing for a team to put their best defensive big on KP. Either way
Mm-hmm.
it go, whether he's at the five or the four. So it'll be
Right.
interesting to see how teams adjust with it. And maybe that may favor him going after somebody, putting OG out there a lot more with Kawhi when it all comes down
Mm.
to it. So I think that's
Cause
gonna
I,
make for an interesting lineup case.
yeah, cause a Kawhi OG perimeter, that's gonna be tough for niggas.
It is. It's gonna be very tough, and that also puts a lot of pressure off Booker. Like he had Booker guarding a lot of secondary offensive guys at times too. So I think at
Mm-hmm.
this point now you can kind of just put Booker on, hide Booker anywhere, because
Yep.
you got those guys out there that can defend. Uh,
Yep.
I meant to ask anybody got any questions before we go. Any questions? Mike, I know you said you got some bulletin board material. I like it. I like
You're
it.
my first 10, Mike. Actually, you my fifth game, Mike. So we'll see you soon.
I got the Hornets in game 3. We gonna see what Philly looking like too. Philly New Year's Day. Them Knicks.
I got Seattle, Knicks, Wizards, 76ers, and Hornets all in my top 10. So
Ooh,
there should be some interesting games right there.
ooh wee. Yep.
Yeah, that should be
That's
interesting.
gonna be interesting. And then I don't play Spurs till late.
This my
Ready to see.
second to last game. We don't
Yep.
play in the May.
Yep.
I play UMBSB last.
Yep.
All right, man. Well, I
It's
can't wait
gonna
to see how these first weeks go for niggas.
appreciate y'all for tuning in. It was a good off season for a lot of people. I think this one of the better, like I said, probably one of the better. I think you had 5 teams with A grades. I don't think that's happened yet. So shows that a lot of guys are getting better at it. Being more focused on their off season too. So looking forward to it, y'all. Y'all have a good one though.